There we go. All right. Jason Broughton is Vermont State Librarian and Commissioner of Libraries and has held that position since April of 2019. Before being appointed to this role, he was the Assistant State Librarian for Library Advancement and served as the interim Vermont State Librarian in Vermont. Obviously. Previously, he served as a workforce development trainer and outreach coordinator at the South Carolina State Library. He also currently serves as the Vermont 2020 Complete Count Committee Chair. Jason came to Vermont with extensive experience in library services with a focus on creating and nurturing a love for lifelong learning. Jason is also an amazing baker, and personally speaking, I am looking forward to being able to go to the office again to enjoy the various delicious things he bakes for staff and visitors. So that's one of the many downsides of this COVID thing. Anyway, please join me in welcoming Jason. Jason, take it away.
Well, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. Just want to make sure I test that out. Again, good morning. Thank you for coming to the Trustee and Friends Conference. And while it is not exactly the way we would have planned it for the year, we were able to transition this into a wonderful opportunity to have more people connect online. And so with that, please know that if you are anxious about technology, you have a lot of people here to assist you and to help navigate this entire situation to make sure that this is a pleasurable experience for you today. With that, today I plan on talking to you as trustees and friends about some updates that are going on across the state, how the department is faring, and things that are more coordinated toward trustee and friends as far as conversations. I know that you are hopefully able to connect with us by asking questions. That can be done through the chat, and we will have someone moderating that. And if you also just hover your arrow over the middle of the page in what is known as Teams through Microsoft, you will see a toolbar come up and you will see a little hand, and that can also be where you can raise your hand and someone can note that as well. I do hope that this is interactive for us today and that you bring your questions on a variety of things. I'm not sure if I'm going to have all the answers as the informational guru here at the top, but we will seek to figure out how to answer those questions if we don't have the answer immediately. So with that, I'm going to get started by sharing my screen. Know that this information will be provided to you once the session is over. So please don't fear that you don't have access to the information. We are compiling quite a lot of items to make sure that you have these items at the end of the conference or toward the end of the day, but we're going to work through those logistics. Again, as you come in, welcome, welcome. We are doing the talk with the state librarian, and I'll let those get situated. And with that, hopefully you are able to see my screen. And with that, I want somebody to kind of let me know if you are seeing where it says State Library Trustee and Friends Conference Update. Is everyone able to see that? Jeanette, are you able to see my screen?
Looks good, Jason.
Perfect. Thank you, Josh.
Yep.
All right. So with this, we're going to start off with the elephant in the room, which is going to be what exactly is going on with library services regarding how things are being navigated under COVID. So with that, the department has, as I like to call it, churn and burn its way through a variety of the interesting things that we had to quickly pivot toward when it came to this unexpected situation. As the year started, we were looking forward to a variety of interesting things. And within that, around March, particularly March 3rd, everyone was out of the office here in Barre. We shared the location with the Vermont Historical Society and I think Vermont Archaeology. And within that, we have a lot of people who are teleworking and also telecommuting, and I am one of the few, along with some of our other staff from the State Library and Information and Access, and our audio, braille, large print, and electronic resources library known as ABLE. I'll also give you a tour virtually of what that looks like on some of the resources that you might not be aware of as a trustee or as a friend that we promote to libraries to be what we like to call the intellectual touchstone for Vermont. Lots of things have occurred, but we have a resource page devoted to reopening, and that is something that is probably very, very helpful in letting people have conversations as they navigate what can be done during this time and how can it be done safely. So we have been in talks with lots of library directors and trustees on a variety of options. As you know, we don't tell any library what to do, but we are here to provide a lot of advisory items and, of course, insight and consultations through a variety of our consultants to help you make the best decision for your community, given what we are all experiencing. With that, we continue to promote, for example, the Mask On campaign based on Governor Scott and asking people to please have masks when they go out in a variety of locations while also ensuring that you have distancing, such as 6 feet or a little bit more apart in a variety of different aspects. We have a lot of posters and different items that are available to your library, and it doesn't have to be just for your library. If you would like to promote that as a community awareness item, feel free to contact us and we can send out posters to you in a variety of items. I am listed on one of the posters. Letting people know why it's important to wear a mask, which allows people to be safe and healthy as they enter or exit into a library. There are different versions and different colors, but if you contact us, we can also get that out to you. It's also a good way to use it as an outreach event to connect with different parts of your community as well, who might not be in the same, I would say, sphere of understanding the importance of mask use at this current time. One important aspect that has been very, very nuanced is the OCLC, Battelle, and IMLS realm study. And what this is a study looking at library services, logistics, materials, and resources, and what impacts COVID are on those items specifically. As anything with science, it is just limited to the scope of exactly what that is. So that would mean it's not necessarily going to answer all the questions that people might want to know, but it could say for specific things such as vinyl cases, the type of books that people are handling, what an operation looks like if there is contagion that is on the specific material, how best should the library consider to examine what its operations could look like and going forward. At current, there are a variety of things to which COVID does have some residual awareness still upon, but within that, quarantine does help. I can say lots of our libraries are quarantining materials, which are very helpful in also diminishing the amount of contagion that is on that specific item. Of course, there's lots of questions. People want to know exactly variety of things on how this study can be, in a sense, introduced in layman's terms. And so we are working with the federal entities in the study to address that in a future webinar or an FAQ that allows everybody to kind of understand it without the scientific language being so heavy. So we look forward to that also occurring. We've set up, again, a reopening page that has this information on, and we also send out updates to library directors, letting them know what the study has actually found and what they're going to do next on a variety of different items. So far, libraries across the country are using the study to be successful and looking at how they want to interact with their community, anywhere from curbside delivery to not full-fledged opening, but sort of kind of fully open. The majority of libraries, I believe, are doing a mix of things. We have curbside delivery. We also have by appointment. We have staff only with some light items. We have those who are also doing outreach in some very interesting ways. And of course, we have some libraries that are open, but not exactly, again, as they were pre-COVID, because there's a lot of cleaning and continual things that you have to do to make sure that everybody is safe. Moving on. As you know, 2020 has definitely been an interesting year. And so within that, we are also providing a lot of information and resources on all things when it comes to race, culture, gender, class, and society during this time. There are lots of conversations occurring across Vermont, anywhere from I don't understand why this is a big deal, as it has come to me in certain cases, all the way to, oh my goodness, the world is about to collapse onto itself. So within that, There have been people asking, what can my local library do to just have the conversation? If we all understand what libraries are, which are places of information and access, libraries are beyond books. There are those of us who love books, love the smell, the texture, the feel of a print book, but that's just one version of it. Within that, our key goal is to always remember we like what is in the book and how we can make that information more accessible to a variety of people so that they can enjoy the information that is there and hopefully become their best selves. Within that, libraries have decided that they wish to be a part of the conversation in their community in a variety of ways. Some people are doing talks, there are lecturers, there are virtual programs, there are also book sets that they're doing, and they're creating conversations to talk about what does it mean, in a sense, to be human? What does it mean to see someone else as a different race? What does that mean in a variety of ways? Vermont is much more nuanced in the sense that it has a history itself of some interesting things, positive and less than positive, that it has done to ensure that people have rights and access and equality on a variety of different levels. And that conversation still continues today. Again, we have a resource page that one can go to look and examine what items are there to give you inspiration, insight, and how to slowly discuss those conversations. These are not easy conversations to be had because they can have trigger points. Everybody brings different types of experiences with them. And of course, we again are talking about really what does it mean to treat our fellow man a certain specific way and how we wish to go forward together. Things that we've done, of course, set up a portal. We have a variety of people who are on a variety of working groups across the state to look at disparities anywhere from finance to health to gender in a whole host of ways. So the department is enthralled in a variety of conversations at the state level because this just isn't a topic of leisure at the current moment. All of state government is examining a variety of things when it looks to this to say, well, maybe the past wasn't working so well for everybody. What does the future look like for us now? AOE is for the Agency of Education. We consider the agency a partner. We have a long storied history with the Agency of Education, and that should kind of make sense to a lot of people. You have libraries and education, even though they do different things. Education is different from what libraries do, which is primarily literacy. What does it mean to be a literate individual as opposed to being educated? And so, with that, we are reestablishing some connections on a variety of things, with our biggest topic being rural education at the current moment. And so, if you have any questions about what that looks like, I am happy to share my talks with Secretary French and Deputy Secretary Heather Boucher on what we're looking forward to do going forward, but particularly with emphasis on this time. We have a wonderful relationship with Humanities Council in a variety of things that they do, particularly the First Wednesdays programs that brings a variety of things to different parts of our society on a variety of topics. We hope that you enjoy that. Last but not least, we have a variety of book sets that we can get into. And again, you can connect with us to have those sent to your library along with the list of what's available. As for the department, we are a department of 19 people. And within that, over the years, you might be surprised for those who have been here in Vermont the longest and paid attention to the department. The department, at one point in its life cycle, had upwards of over 60 employees with 5 regional branches and the state library itself. That has transitioned over the many years where we are no longer in Montpelier. We are now in Barre, and the regionals are long gone by now. And so we are combined into one specific location within that. As for this year, lots of things are being navigated. Budgets, of course, are going to be tight from what we are all experiencing and also going forward into the future. We are very pleased, however, that it is not as dire as we were told it could be. We were expecting a cut upwards of 25%. That did not translate, and so we're very pleased. We then were asked to recalibrate at 5%, and the administration then said, nope, we actually believe you just need to do a 3% cut. And so within that, yes, it's a couple $100,000 that came out, but within that, we were very happy as opposed to what we were expecting. We did have a small amount of reserve known as a carry forward. Half of that has been taken, as it could be in any year, because the state, of course, wants to make sure it can continue to operate in a specific way within that. So the department is very, very pleased with where it stands now, and we look forward to continued service in the future. Of that, however, I will say from state government's perspective, and in the meetings that I am with, the department sits under the Agency of Administration under Secretary Suzanne Young. And there is a lot of concern, particularly from the health department. And it might be something that you, as trustees, might want to focus on because you are part of the community. You're going to know your community better than us, but state government is very, very interested in what the next 2 years could look like for mental health, addiction, programs that people can have access to regarding mental health because we're going to be in this a while. You have probably heard about vaccines that hopefully might be introduced by the end of the year. But if you really, really understand the nuances of that, the availability, the distribution, the ramping up, it's going to take a while, months, if not easily another 12 months, for that to be applicable to all of us. So, what that means is some of us are probably going to be anxious. Others of us are not going to be handling this well. And the goal is going to be what can we do? Not that library should be the new thing that does everything for everyone, but you know that in your community, there are people who come by the library even now just to have social connection because they don't have it anywhere else. So the question that I ask you as trustees, what can you do as you examine with your library director to help the community survive this in the best possible positive way that one is examining what does it look like to take another 12 months, even if it's getting better, under COVID until we all are able to go back to some form of normalcy. There are questions I constantly get of, do you think we're ever going back to the past? And I said, I can barely remember the past. If you really think about it, can you remember exactly what you did last year, this time, prior to COVID? It's kind of a blur. Everything is just a jumble because we've been through quite a lot of stress and anxiety and tension. And Vermont has fared very well as compared to some other states. So the goal going forward is if your library would like to participate in helping the community with information, because that's what this is, you have to then say, what does it look like to have things, events, activities that will bring people together so that they have a sense of community, they have a sense of awareness, and that they know they are also kind of looked after and cared upon. Variety of things can happen from small celebrations to, believe it or not, a simple meeting where people just kind of simply ask a question, how are we doing? You'll be surprised sometimes what you find. So I look forward to seeing what you can kind of do for your community as a trustee and as a friends group. Because it's not just that you are entrusted with making sure that the library runs properly or fundraising for the library on behalf of you being a library lover. It actually means, are you a friend to the library in the sense of a friendship? Because a library is a lot of things to a lot of different people, not just one thing for everybody. It's a variety of things. Library legislation. We were very, very hopeful. It had been a while, but with Senator Ruth Hardy, and I think she's from Addison County. And within that, she introduced a library study bill that we were very, very pleased about. And it definitely gained a lot of traction this year. But it has now, unfortunately, been stopped. It was stopped in the spring of the year when COVID transitioned. But what that bill would have done was examine the library ecosystem and all parts libraries to say, here's what libraries are doing in the state of Vermont, and what does the legislature really feel about that? How do you feel about what the department is doing with libraries of all calibers, some school, a little bit academic, but primarily public? And it would have been like a state of the state address on libraries to let the Vermont society know, here's what libraries are doing. What do you think? That, of course, has been now stopped in a sense because we are all under COVID and we don't know if that will be reestablished going forward in the future. But we definitely don't believe it will happen within the next year, particularly 2 years if possible. But we look forward to something being crafted and created so that the department can examine the library ecosystem and the landscape. The most newest item, for those who don't know, the Department of Libraries does have a board that is advisory to the state librarian, and that is the State Board of Libraries. It is advisory, but it also has a unique feature that has been a carryover since its inception, which is geographic naming. In the past, it did quite a lot of things, and it's a testament to how Vermont views libraries, and other things, in a sense, were provided to other entities. And you might say, what do you mean by that? Well, for example, it used to name bridges, roads, trails, a whole host of things. And those things are now under different entities, under A&R, AOT, and a variety of other aspects. But it still retains some geographic naming for specific items with a few caveats. There is a act that was introduced for the department, not the board though, the department to examine naming of state buildings and facilities. We understand that the Department of Libraries has a long storied track record in this area, and there is a request just to provide recommendations on what a process would look like for naming state buildings and facilities. So we look forward to crafting that for the committee that has prepared that request for us, and that will be made available in the new year for them to review and have recommendations. Going forward, a simple update on the census. Yes, I am also your 2020 Decennial Census Chair, and within that, Vermont has done a tremendous, remarkable job under COVID to get its rate to where it is at this morning. I tend to be a bit of a compulsive person in this position with this specifically because the census impacts everything that we actually do when it comes to federal appropriations to all of the state entities, in addition to state legislatures and redistricting with the Secretary of State. So at the current moment, Vermont's 2010 self-reporting rate was 60.3 when it ended. And normally the census does this in 5 months. Unfortunately, this year the census has had to do it in 3 months, and it looks like that the census will not be given any relief to have it extended into October 31st. So that means all census operations will cease next week on September 30th. I say that to tell you how it impacts you in a variety of ways from a variety of standpoints. Vermont, for the largest 55 programs federally that is connected with, gets $2 billion back in appropriation. When you review all of the programs and how they impact Vermont, Vermont gets $4 billion of money returned to the state. So the more people who participate in this constitutional act, people don't even think of that as an act, but yes, the census is a constitutional duty that we are asked to do to count all whole persons in our country on years that end in zero since its inception. A very simple item with 9 questions, but it can create a lot of controversy in a variety of different ways. But within that, we are in a really good place. As of this morning, we are at 60% self-reporting. Enumeration continues to go forward, and my main goal is I would like to just get us above the 60.3. Any excess that you have means a little tiny bit more money comes to the state if we can surpass our current 2010 item of 60.3. So we have a little bit less than 10 days to do that, but we will see. Last but not least, we received some Karazak funding from Imls, the Institute for Museum and Library Services, which is our federal appropriator, that allowed us to have money to help our libraries in different ways. There were some caveats. It had to be in areas that unfortunately had some disparities, or it could be in areas under poverty and looking at different types of aspects there. So with the first initial round that we received, we bought a lot of sanitizer and shield guards for over 100 libraries to actually have. We appropriated a grant to the Vermont Historical Society for museum programming, and we also did a grant to the Green Mountain Library Consortium to additionally have ebooks to help out our libraries in a variety of ways. We're now going through the second round, in which we're going to release a broadband grant, which is to allow libraries to consider some technology upgrades, anywhere from changing out parts to having Wi-Fi extenders with that. So please be on the lookout for that. Those will be coming out in the next week. And we have a second round of things that we're going to release for libraries because we're unsure what the fall would look like and would like for you to be prepared. Those are going to primarily be disinfectant and sanitizer again. But again, stay tuned for announcements coming out shortly within that. And Given the time, because I can talk all day on a variety of items, I think it's time to take a little bit of a pause and see if there are any questions that you might want to pose in the chat before I go forward, or if you have any commentary that you would like me to know as the state librarian within that. So, Josh and Jeanette, how are we doing?
Yeah, good. So we don't have any questions posted right now, but please do
Mhm.
go ahead and post your questions in the chat. You can also, if you are on the phone, you can hit *6, unmute yourself and ask your question. And you can also ask your question over the mic if you are not on the phone, if you're in the web conference. You can also raise your hand if you're more comfortable doing that.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Well, I am now then going to transition us into a quick little overview for our trustees and friends on what the department kind of provides, because I'm not really ever sure that sometimes everyone really understands who we are as a state entity known as the state library and what our availability is to assist you in a variety of ways. So hopefully everyone is able to see the screen that I'm sharing, which is our web page for the department. There's our department if you're looking at it now, all of us, and that handsome gentleman in the black right there. Yes, I can't say enough about that person. Oh, what an interesting young man that person is. Oh, that happens to be me. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So within that, the web page allows you to connect with us on resources and also get in touch with us. The best thing I would suggest if you don't have a relationship with us to ask questions on anything, and it can be how we can assist you, how we can consult, what it does it look like in the lay of the land across other libraries your size, is you can go here on the page to the staff directory. That's the easiest. And you have access to all of our phone numbers and emails to connect with us. There's a little bit of information about what each person does because there are two types of divisions. There is library advancement, with Jeanette oversees, and then there is information and access, which Tom McMurdo oversees. And you can send us a variety of things as you read through to connect with us on different types of entities. We have specific areas that are also important, such as the ABLE Library, again, audio, braille, large print, and electronic resources, and is a wealth of information helping people stay connected to their love of reading, or if they physically can't hold a book, even temporarily, you can get in contact with us and then we can assist you or your community in looking at how we can provide informational resources and also players at no cost through the National Library Service. We have IT gurus who is on the call today, known as Josh Muse. We also have April Shaw and a variety of people when it comes to interlibrary loan and, of course, specific types of library research. So again, the staff directory here always located. You click on that and you'll get to us. Other aspects that you might not have known about are the things that we can also provide to our libraries in different ways. So we do connect with specific consortia known out of Massachusetts as MHEC when it comes to purchasing things at different costs. Tom McMurdo oversees that. So if your library is always interested in something to purchase in a variety of ways, you might want to just connect with us to see if there's an applicable discount that could also be afforded you in a variety of ways, because saving money will be the name of the game over the next year or two. We have a grants page. We also have a wonderful children and youth services library consultant, Jonathan Clark, within that, and also Jennifer. Hopefully, some of you know, also chimes in a variety of ways. Joy Warland primarily oversees continuing education for us, and we always are doing a variety of things, which includes this conference and helping people stay up to date on continuing education in a variety of aspects of their lives. And of course, again, information technology, interlibrary loan, and then different types of applications that we actually have. Within that, however, let's go to the ABLE library. As I stated, if you have anybody who might be vision impaired or differently abled, we offer a service that allows you to have a variety of things from large print books, print bail, digital talking books, and also audio. There is even a downloadable component that you can have to your device, like your tablet or your phone, based on the type of software that you have, where you can actually have it sent directly there. You can contact Jeanette or going back to the staff directory, Wendy Clark or Sarah Blow, and they will graciously help you. And please know that we don't have a cap on that. So, for example, if there were 30 people who needed them, 30 things would go out immediately to assist you in a variety of ways. So, again, it's a service that is to be offered to anybody, including temporary. It could be for surgery, pregnancy, a small illness, all the way to unfortunately permanent, where you can have this service to assist you in the love of reading. We do, however, always get this question, and we would be happy to connect you with the vendor that does this. But most people always ask, do you have textbooks? That is something that we don't necessarily have here, but we can get you in touch with the entities that do so you could examine what that looks like as a service. And again, this can also be used in conjunction with anything within the educational system for IEPs and a whole host of items. And again, the Agency of Education is also examining what it looks like during this interesting time for special education services, since a lot of school systems are doing hybrid models, virtual services, and let's say adjusted in-person class days within that. Other items, the About Us. On this page, you can find out a little bit about what the role of the state librarian does, the library, public library foundation that we actually have, the board of libraries. Bruce posted the chair, and I think our vice chair is on our call this morning. Good morning, Deborah, and Deborah Granquist out of Weston, and a variety of other persons, as you can see, Max Evans, Tom Frank, Rebecca Irwin, and Linda. Within that, we do have Rebecca who came off, and we do have two people who are now in transition to be appointed to the board. So we will have a full board in the next coming weeks. We have regularly scheduled board meetings like every quarter, unless there's a special meeting to be held. And our next one coming up will be in October. Primarily library updates. The board looks at what it wants to kind of examine on how to help libraries, but it also has a huge feature in, again, geographic naming in specific locations across the state. So lots of items there. We also have a variety of things that we do regarding what is known as our federal procurement of appropriated funds under what is known as the Library Services and Technology Act, or LSTA. And this is how we help you and put on conferences like this with the money that we actually have coming back to Vermont from the federal government. It is required that we have a 5-year plan, and you can look at that here on the many services that we provide along with activities. We do hope to consider ourselves a stellar performing type of state library, and we have been recognized in a variety of ways from the federal entity IMLS with some accolades that have been quite phenomenal, which we deeply appreciate. I have a wonderful staff here, and I couldn't do anything as a state librarian without my staff. And so they really are the people who are the state library for me. I'm just somebody who might have an idea, and they are the people who put it into action and make these wonderful things occur for our libraries. So I'm always humbled by the work that they are able to do with my little tiny idea as we go off together. Again, I'd like to stop and see if there's any questions or comments, because again, I can talk about libraries all day. And if you ever should wish to do that, feel free to invite me out. There are lots of trustees who have met me across the state over the many years, and they do know I will come in the dead of winter. Not safe during a snowstorm, but if I can get there, I will. Usually they have hot chocolate, and in other cases, I've actually had people meet me at a bar, which was quite interesting. That was good, with a night stay to make sure I wasn't driving home after that experience, but that's a little bit more personal. But I'd love to talk to you about it in person when I see you. Questions at this moment, Jeanette or Josh?
Nope, there are currently no questions posted. If anybody would like to turn on your mic and pose your questions using your voice, you are welcome to.
And I will turn mine off just for a moment and see what we get.
Okay. All right, everybody's shy this morning. And you do know that Jason is always available. He is responsive when you do email him.
Oh,
So
perfect.
Yeah.
What I will move into our last item, because it's already 10:38, time is slowly chugging forward. And again, I thank you for coming into the session as a welcome by the State Librarian for all the work that you do. As you go forward as trustees, the year will look very, very interesting, and there'll be a lot of navigation that you will have to consider as you work with your library director on flexible adjustments. In some cases, with the future being unknown, it could be quick stops and starts. And again, that will be based on the health information that we post out to everybody to make sure that they have timely information to make the best decision. At the current moment, as I said, we have libraries operating in a variety of different capacities that suit their specific community. Our role is to assist you in helping you have that information so that if you wish to, we can talk through with you what exactly the state mandates are, what we're seeing on the ground as far as any outbreaks, and then allowing you to say, oh, we think we can do this very safely, or maybe we want to wait until a little bit of a better time to roll out a variety of items. From trustees, we haven't gotten too many questions, but I can definitely say we've gotten a large amount of questions from library directors on a variety of things as they navigate different situations. Things that I believe that you can do is to ensure that you support your library director as best you can, but at the same time, you have a very nuanced role, which requires that you ask specific questions to ensure the health and vibrancy of the library under your care. So that means you and the library director have to act as a unit in looking at a variety of different things. Those items can be sometimes tough based on personality or fear and anxiety. In other cases, it can be a breeze when you're working seamlessly. But then sometimes you're working too closely together that some other things can also appear. So there has to be a nice balance that you will be examining over the next year or two. Concerns that I have. One of my biggest concerns is I am very concerned about our local libraries at this time because of the financial impacts by the community. The state is very concerned about frontline items, as I like to call it, where the local community is going to be the first signal to state government about how bad it is. Right now, you know what's not open. You know as you drive by and walk around your community, if you've been able to get out, who is struggling, who's not, what businesses are doing, and what does that look like for town revenues? Because the library, in some way, is being appropriated funds by the local community. That has to be taken into account as you plan your year. Do you have any backup reserve funds? Are there any things that you can kind of do to examine what is it that we as a group of people, as trustees, can do to assist? Now, of course, some people say, well, that's what the job of the friends are. The friends are more than just fundraising. Specifically, the friends are entrusted to, of course, be a friend to the library. And sometimes you need to, in a sense, examine things differently so that everyone can understand what the roles are. I deeply appreciate the role of friends in libraries, and I've met a variety of you as well. In fact, some of you wouldn't let me get away if I didn't purchase something when I was at local visits, which is a testament to your salesmanship as a friend of the library. Make sure that no one leaves without buying something. So I appreciate that, from be it from books that I also now have to food and different types of things. Friends groups also have a place at the table in making sure that the library is able to perform some of the things in a variety of ways. We are all in such a unique time period where we must depend and rely upon each other to make sure that we are successful on different aspects because no one person can do it all. What you can do is have a conversation amongst yourselves, examine your community, and see what is possible as we head into the winter. And so, with that, my main goal is to always be in touch with our consultants, if possible, on how things are going, because we want to know, because I too am a person that can voice some of your concerns to the administration. Lots of people sometimes forget that. I might not always do it immediately because there are other things that are at play, but I will be a vocal conduit for people to just be aware to say, well, this is what I'm hearing from the trustees. And that information does go to Secretary Young and eventually gets to the governor. So do know that I'm an active commissioner for the Department of Libraries. And I do separate the role out of state librarian, which is the person who loves to talk about libraries all the time. And the commissioner, a little bit more bureaucratic, likes to talk about, well, how does that look? What's the process? So if there are any concerns or items, I'm always appreciative of hearing of them so that I can make sure that that information is pushed upward so that people know how the frontline people, the Vermonters who are going to libraries, what they're experiencing and what their thoughts are.
Jason, we had one question, which I think we will be addressing over the period of the week in the various sessions, but
Mhm.
the question is to you then, how can trustees help the director, role of trustees versus the director, especially in the pandemic? And that question came from Lisa. Thank you, Lisa.
I will answer a little bit of that. And yes, we do have that as part of our conference. Within that, let's all understand what our roles are. At the current moment, the trustees hire and fire the director, but that means you should also have a wonderful relationship if you can get that. It's not always the case because we're all different people. But when you are working on behalf of the library and also examining what the community might like, particularly during what we consider an unprecedented, if not historic, time, it means some new conversations have to appear. What is exactly needed right now? What is the forecast of the future? Those things have to come into account to help you make the best decision because sometimes you might say, we need to do something now, only to realize maybe if we had waited, this would have been much more successful. In some cases, you do have to act now. And that would be, for example, do you need to get sanitizer? Do you need to start stocking up on a few things because you're unsure of what the winter could look like if you're going to try to keep library services open? At last count, based on our survey, we only have one library that is closed, and that, of course, is a variety of reasons, and all the others are open in some format. Again, each community needs to make that decision and what that is. And the goal of the trustee in that, in helping the director, is to also be slightly of an advocate to let the community know what it is the library is doing. I have heard over years many trustees saying, well, I don't really think I'm an advocate for the library. Well, when the library director can't speak, the library trustee and the friends groups should be the ones in the room to kind of say, well, let me tell you my point of view since I'm the trustee. Here's what I'm seeing. And that's something that can be positive to the community. You want to be as transparent as you can on the actions that you have decided upon for your community so that there isn't any misunderstandings or any issues down the road. People do rely upon the library for a variety of things, and sometimes things that we had not even factored or considered, particularly, as I said, mental health, socialization. Yes, there were homeless people coming in. Yes, there were people having hard times coming into the library, sometimes just to find a cool space or a warm space or a space just to be able to stop and think for a second. Well, all of that has changed. So then the goal becomes, what happened to those people? How are they doing? Some people might say, well, that's not the role of a library. Well, the role of a library is about information and access, computer usage, Wi Fi. Those two things are very important when you are looking at people who have families who are trying to go to some form of hybrid model, which means you need to have a connection. What can be afforded to them if they are out in the hinterlands? Of course, some of this is conversations with the state of Vermont itself. It has to make a plan. But it also means, are there ways in which you can examine what does it look like to help the community on a different level by not necessarily doing too much, but rethinking what it is you can do differently that you currently do. For example, for us, it will be what we can do to help libraries have Wi Fi extenders to push past your location, way beyond, in some cases, the parking lot and into the community, which helps even more people. Because I can only imagine if I were a person that didn't have good Wi Fi, but the library did, yes, I would probably have to be in a car with my child, whoever that is, and then figure out, okay, we're going to be here for a while to help you do homework. That's some dedication. But if the library found a way to make that a little bit easier, a little bit differently, and it doesn't mean you have to do that all on your own. It does mean, do you wish to have a conversation with the community? Do you wish to have a conversation with the town? Do you wish to have a conversation with the school? What does that look like for people in different parts and different aspects? So I would say Continue to have upfront, honest, collaborative conversations with your director. If you have ideas, share them. That's what the purpose of discussion is. Now, of course, we all have our own personalities, and we all find a way, in a sense, to make those things item. But I would definitely say don't ever be timid because you are in the role of oversight for the library to have your question, in a sense, discussed. Now, please understand the director is in charge with carrying out their own duties and their own ideas, in addition to having the board approve them. So be prepared for a director to also, in some cases, brush back with their own ideas. And again, you might be surprised to find it might work out differently, might be better, or a little bit less. But the goal is to have that conversation. And you do want to also find out how the community views the library. Lots of us sometimes think, well, they know what we do. They come to us. That model has quickly changed given COVID. If more so, people have access to more information that's not in a library, and that is called the so called internet. That is a whole discussion I will not stay upon because that would drive me to a large amount of issues because everything on the internet is not necessarily true, and you do need trusted people to help guide you through the massive swath of information and misinformation. But a librarian can give you both the misinformation and the truthful information. That's one of our roles, providing information. So go forward with courage, with resolve, a bit of patience, because you never know what's going on behind the curtain with people at a certain time. But as long as you're thoughtful, I think you'll be productive. So encourage each other, but have discussions on ideas as a trustee and also with your director.
Thank you, Jason, for that. We are a few minutes over. The next sessions start at 11.
Mhm.
So we have 3 breakout sessions, which will work pretty simply, similar to the way that you logged onto this room right here. You will be logging on to 3 different rooms, whichever one you choose. So you can either continue the conversation with Jason, and we have the link to that posted in the chat and also on the conference webpage. You can join Joy in equitable and inclusive library policies, or Lara in strategic planning implications during COVID-19 and beyond. So we have 3 different sessions. If you signed up for one and you changed your mind, that's totally fine. Just hop onto that session that you're interested in. You can also just switch halfway through. So hang up this call now, and right before 11, hop on whichever session that you are interested in. And thank you again for showing up, and we will see you the rest of the week. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you again.